I'm always asked this question, I always tend to say that I was just born into it. When my mom was around my age, she lived in Tennessee still, but she didn't show livestock. She got started with hunter jumpers, which are the horses that jump over poles. And my dad had grown up doing crops and soil ID. His dad was an extension agent, and then once my sister and my mom moved to Arkansas, my sister started showing pigs. And so once my brother got old enough to kind of decide what he wanted to do, he said that he wanted to start showing goats and chickens as well. So I grew up probably as long as I can remember, to about 8 or 9 years old, showing just goats, chickens, and pigs. And then when I was about 9 years old, I said, I want to try sheep. So now we show exhibition poultry, which are the ones that are kind of like a purebred dog show, I guess you could say. It's the pure breeds. Goats, market goats, and breed goats. Market sheep and market hogs. It is way more serious than what you think. There are people that go across the country to get points for different shows and to be able to say like, hey, I won this. We know a girl and she's from Arkansas. She just won a national showmanship. That is a big deal. This is her last year. This is either her last year or next year's her last year, but that's a big deal to be able to accomplish that. And it's expensive. If you want to do good, at least, because you have to be able to buy the right feed, buy the right type of animal. It's not necessarily if they're good when they're little. It's if they're going to be good when they get big. You have to buy the right equipment, a blower, different products, everything to carry all your stuff in, a different table for the sheep and goats, clippers, shears, anything and everything that you could probably think of. During the summer, I easily 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night, and then I got 30 minutes of feeding in the middle of the day, and then probably 15 minutes in between. That's just feeding. And then you've got other stuff that includes cleaning out stalls, cleaning out pens, drenching, working, physically getting the animals out. Sometimes they need to be exercised, put on the treadmill, or sometimes they need to be run with a run dog or whatnot. It just kind of depends on what the day is and what I need to get done on how much I have to spend. So to be honest, I don't know how many hours to spend outside, but that's a rough estimate of what I do. We have guard dogs, which are out there. I don't know if you can see them. We got honey bear and honey bear and a guard dog in the back. These help keep. They can be everything from like stray dogs to our neighbor dogs to coyotes and even possums and raccoons. If they sneak up, they can get vicious. But they can keep everything away from them, keep them safe. We even sometimes if it's breeding season, we'll put a buck in there or switch some does around, and those dogs will keep the two groups separate until she's comfortable. It's really cool to kind of watch how she circles them to say, hey, stay away from my goats. You can stay over here for a little bit.
You said buck and doe, right?
Yes.
You're not talking about
You're correct. A doe is a doe that is over the age of 2. Because you have doelings, which are does under the age of 1. You have yearlings, which are female goats, which are about 1 to 1.5, 2 years old. And we have bucks, which are non-castrated males, and we have wethers, which are castrated males. This is a question that I've kind of been thinking about the entire day, because there are so many that you've learned. You've learned to not give up. You've learned your responsibility, that it is your job to get out here at the crack of dawn and get your stuff done before you go to school. You've learned how to not give up. Some days shows are really hard because, even this year with COVID, there's just some things that aren't right. You don't get to experience your last show the right way. You don't get to go and have fun and do your traditions that you normally do with your friends here at shows. I mean, I didn't get that pineapple whip at State Fair. That never happens. And that's something that I grew up doing with my brother. And we just didn't get to do that this year because we didn't have any concession stands. So, appropriate times for appropriate things to be said. You know, there's different people that, you know, that don't do things right. They may cheat. That's the easiest way to say it, I guess. They may do stuff the wrong way, and you know, but it's just sometimes you leave people how they are. You don't want to mess with them. And then, I still sometimes have issues with talking to strangers because, you know, when you're little, it's like ground into you, like stranger danger. You don't go talk to people. Well, now that I'm older, I need to go talk to people to get the connections that will take me farther in the show world, because I may need better animals next year. I may need a different additive. I may need a new show camp to go to learn new things. There is all kinds of things that you can learn, but those are probably just a few that I can think of, at least off the top of my head. I've grown up in the church. There are people, I call them like my grandparents, everybody, all the Joneses girls and my sisters. We know we grew up together. But I've said this before in youth council speeches and whatnot, that I didn't necessarily find my faith until I was told to go and explore with it. Like, I had grown up being told the childish side of the stories, and then as I got older and into college, I realized that there's so much more to Songs of Solomon and whatnot. There's just so much more that you learn about as you get older, and you go and you see all of these different places with your youth group, and your mindset really changes. And my faith story was really strong when I was younger, and then probably just being like the transition to realize that there is different things that can happen in the world. And now with COVID, I have a grandparent that's in hospice, and that was a grandparent that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm starting to realize, like, there are things that can happen, and even though they hurt and they don't always happen for a reason, you will soon see that if this didn't happen, you wouldn't be where you are today. I mean, I'm 14 years old. I just turned 14 a month ago. I have so much more ahead of me, both in school and in showing, because I'm not going to quit till I'm 21 until I physically have to. There's so much more when it comes to my faith story. You know, I want to be on ACCYM and DCCYM and all these things, and so I am not done. I know that. It's not I don't think I'm done. It's I'm not done, because I want to go do more. And I feel like that's kind of the mentality that you have to have. A lot of people, I come off as like mean to them or insensitive, and it's just, I want to get things done, and I want to be able to like say like, hey, I did this, being proud of myself, not rub it in your face, because that's wrong. No, I'm not going to do that. I was raised right. I'm not going to do that. I want to be proud of myself and say like, hey, I can do this. I can do it on my own. I guess you've done a very good job at teaching us different things about different denominations, religions, everything in a whole. And so when there are some kids that are saying the wrong thing, I've learned to hold my tongue. And because if a person is doing the wrong thing at a show, maybe they're drinking when they're not supposed to. I mean, I drink, but I know I am not supposed to. Maybe they are just being really rude. There is very much politics in the show world. There's some shows that you know not to go to because the same people win every year, and sometimes you're kind of wondering, like, that animal didn't look the best that it could have been. So, there's that, and also whenever you're showing, you don't want to ever give up, because one show could be really hard, and you don't know if it was you or if it was something that the judge thought, because it's always one judge on one day. Yes, sometimes it's harder than others. Maybe it happened multiple times in a row. But no matter what, you always need to keep on going and knowing that there's going to be a next show. And if not, there's going to always be somebody else that you can help. not make the same mistakes that you did. And whenever you go in your faith, you hit these boulders that you physically cannot move, so you wait until you find a way around it, until you can go and say, like, I did this and it was really hard, but I made it through. I did not stop going. It's Christian community, faith, family, everything that has played a role. Friends, you don't really think about that until you're laying in your room in the middle of the night because you can't sleep. And then you just think about all the people and the things that have made you who you are today. It's the people around me, and then me learning how to properly deal with what happens. Because you don't really learn how to do it when you're younger. You learn that as you get older and being able to cope with stuff properly. Do your research. Like, I can't stress that enough. The Greenfields started showing this year. This was Brooklyn's first year. And they did fantastic. They did great. Brooklyn got top 5 with her go at State Fair, and that was a heavyweight class. That was a good class. And she didn't make like 5th, she made 4th. And so she didn't make top 5 barely, she made it. And they had contemplated doing this for a long time. I think it was like a year or 2, and because they wanted to make sure that they were going to do it, that wanted to do it. That they did their research and they made sure that they had the right time, the right feed ready, the right like stall or pen to put them in. It kind of depends on your mindset too, if you really want to do this. If you don't, then okay, but don't get mad whenever you don't win because you're not trying your best. So. Yes, that's it. Because, I mean, when it comes to market animals, you get them around like the early part of the year, like May, June, or July. I'm not sure. One of those 3 months, and then you don't. At least I don't stop normally until October. Well, this year I'm going to a show next week in Mississippi, and that'll be the first time that I've ever gone to a show, a livestock show, after State Fair, but within the year that it still happened. So. When you do market, it doesn't take that long because it's still within 1 year. But if you do breed, these are breed goats out here because they've all had babies, except about 3 of them. They've all had babies except for 3 of them. They are all year long. They stay out here. You gotta feed them every day. You gotta make sure that they're putting on enough weight and whatnot. You don't want them to be fat, but you don't want them to be underweight. And then your exhibition poultry, which is, like I said, the pure breeds of the show. They're all year long. Right now it's poultry show season. Normally I'd have a lot more, but with COVID, we haven't had that many at all. And so those are all year long, trying to make sure that they're molting at the right time, which is where they lose their feathers and grow in new ones. Make sure that they're molting at the right time, that they've still got their yellow legs and their red combs and red wattles. So if you want a short-term but very competitive project, market. But something that's a little more long-term and can be just as competitive but not quite as expensive, breed anything, really, to be honest. I'm going to tell you what it's not. It's not necessarily going to church every day and saying I'm a Christian. It's physically believing and doing the acts too. I remember before I had to do all this stuff, like it was right before my brother left for school, I think, for college, that I was a single child at home. I could go to the Christian Outreach Center and I could work in the summer. And I felt great because I was helping people and it made me feel good. It's doing the actions and not going and gloating to everybody like, hey, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to go to heaven and you aren't. It's, hey, I'm a believer in Christ, and He's pretty great. You should try it sometimes. It's trying to spread the word of God, which is what He told us to do. We're all disciples of His nation, which if in any prayer that I try and do, I always try and incorporate that, because that's what we were told to do. We were told to go be disciples of all nations. We were told that we need to spread His word and be more like Christ every day. That's our goal, to try and love one another just as He loved us. Try and forgive them like He forgave our sins for us. electric fence is turned on.
Oh, okay.
Well, right now, since I'm in school, I'll get up at 5:45, 5:50, and come outside and feed just the pigs. Well, in a normal day, like in the summer, I would come out around 9 o'clock, because that's when the market animals get fed. And first thing I do is I would switch the dogs. They're not in here right now, but I'd let Woodrow inside, which is our blue heeler male, and let the two girls outside, which is our puppy and our red heeler. And then I'd let the sheep out, because they need to run around. They're very full of energy. So that way, yep. So that way they can have fun, see his friends in there. They get out every day and they run around. They hop like deer. It's very funny how they run around. And then once they're out, I go and I mix up the feed for the market goats. The market goats are right here. Here, let me open this up.
You want me to hold it?
No, it's
Okay.
fine.
I
This is Cash. This is Hyde, and that's Jack. And they would all get hooked up to those 3 pans right there. That's why they have dog collars on. So that way we can know exactly what each animal gets. And then after that's done, I would let in the sheep so that way they could go eat. And they get a special feed too. Like I said, they're expensive. This is very special feed. And then like their feed smells like oregano. It smells very good. It smells like pizza sauce. And then once they're done, I would go and I would feed the pigs, because by now they're very loud, they're very hungry. And then I would feed the dogs, so they need to get fed. And then I would feed the front pen, which is all these, and the geese, and I'd feed the back pen, which has another guard dog in there. And then I would feed does back here, which is our almost all red doe. Her name's Donna. That's Donna. And then it's a little baby. She's a little baby, bottle baby. And then after they are done getting fed,
Oh, goodness.
I would unhook the wethers and I would unhook the sheep, and I would go and feed. What would I feed? No, I would water everybody, and if they need their water to be dumped out their water. Then I would, feed and water chickens. And you big girl.
You have to wash chicken?
Yes.